What's up guys, and welcome back to TechPlan. Today I want to find out whether you should change or leave your water when propagating. Let's check it out. To kick this experiment off, we're going to need a test subject. A lot of people don't like my pothos abuse. There's the hashtags, movements, all kinds of things started in defense of pothos, so we're going to switch it over to monstera adansonii. This will give us some maybe different results, and hopefully it appeases the people who want to see something different, which it was a good recommendation, so we'll go with it. So to get started, we just have to cut these vines up into a bunch of individual nodes so we can run the experiment. And that experiment is going to be whether changing the water helps or hurts your propagations. So we're going to make this a little more extreme so the results are a little more noticeable. And one of them, I'm going to change the water literally every single day. And the other one, I'm not going to change it once. And so we're going to see what happens. So I'm going to load up both jars with an equal amount of nodes to get this started, and we're going to start off with the same water. I am using some well water just straight from the faucet, and that'll be our start. So when I change the water out every time, it'll be with the same water source, and we'll see what happens. I was going to film every single day that I actually took care of the water and changed it out, but after about 3 days I got sick of it, and so you're just going to have to trust the fact that I've done this every single day diligently for the experiment. Alright, so about 5 days have passed, so let's take a look and see if there's any growth. Before we actually take a look at the cuttings though, let's just take a look at the water. You can see the one is quite a bit more cloudy, well not super noticeably, hopefully you can see it on camera, but the fresh one is crystal clear, and that's because I've been changing them out, so there hasn't been time for like any algae or anything else to build up. Let's first start off with the one where I'm changing the water out every single day, and from afar you can see there really isn't too much happening. There is kind of a little bit of growth of the dark parts of the roots, but nothing crazy yet, really almost no activity. Looking up even closer on each individual one, you can see almost nothing is happening so far, so we're definitely going to give it a little more time, and hopefully we see something soon. Switching over to the one that I have not changed the water yet, and again it's been 5 days, no water change since we did the cuttings. You can see there's already quite a bit of growth. I'm actually pretty surprised by this because it's only been 5 days and we have a lot of little roots sticking out. Just from the initial 5 days we can already see that the no water change is winning, but let's see long term what that looks like. So let's put these back under the grow lights and see what happens soon. Alright, and by soon I meant 20 more days later. So 20 days have passed since the previous footage, which I think puts us at about 25 days since cutting. And you can already see from the jars from the outer view that there's been quite a lot of changes. Getting them out of the jar, and it's even more obvious, actually crazy obvious. The one on the right is the no water changes with the crazy amount of roots, and the one on the left with almost no activity is me changing the water every day. So let's start by looking at the ones with the no water change, and let's see how the root growth is. Right off the bat, it does look pretty darn healthy, and I've actually got to try and pull these apart because they're quite entangled and the roots are actually really long. Zooming in closer, you can see a lot of the roots are over 2 to 3 inches long, and there's multiple roots coming out of each node, so they're doing fantastic. And all the nodes are putting out new growth as well. Some of them are around 1 inch, some a little more than that. Looking up super close at each individual one, you can see that there's been tons of progress on all of these cuttings, and they are doing fantastic. Again, it's been 25 days since our initial cutting, and I have not changed the water once. Switching over to the change everyday jar, the cuttings are looking rather bleak. I mean, they're alive and they're green and they're not rotting or dying, but they're also not growing at all. Well, I shouldn't say at all. We're getting a few millimeters of growth here, and the roots have done pretty much nothing. The only real difference I can see from the 25 days since the initial cutting is some of the roots are a little bit longer, but they're kind of brown and blackened over almost instantly. Like, I don't see any fresh white roots. It's almost like every time it tries to grow roots, something is kind of killing off that growth and pausing it or slowing it down. I don't know if it's the fresh water, maybe being a little cooler, and that little bit of cool water for the 30 minutes it takes to warm up is stunting it. I'm not quite sure, but something is causing it not to grow. At this point, I'm going to plant up the healthy ones with tons of roots just because they don't need to be in that water anymore, and the water level was getting quite low because I had not changed it or even topped it off. So I got to get them out of there and get them into some soil, and we'll keep the experiment going and see. So let's let this sit for a little longer and see what happens next. Also, I decided after potting these up that I am no longer going to change the water out on the other first jar. I want to see if we just pause on changing the water out, if that will spark some growth or just allow the plants to get going again. I can clearly see that changing the water every day is stunting the growth, so let's switch it up and see what happens in another month with no water change. Alright, so here we are about 2 months later. You can see the potted one is growing quite nicely. We've got some vines going, and we can start to see from the wide shot that there are some roots on our other jar. Looking much closer, I can see a pattern to some of this. They all have new vine growth about 1/2 inch, so they are making progress. However, looking at the roots, you can see the base of almost all of them are dark, just like we were seeing towards the end of the first month, where the roots looked like they were sort of extending, but they were staying pretty dark and malformed. However, we can see new white healthy parts coming out of that. So something about that water, where it was being changed every day, seemed to be disrupting the growth. But now that I let it sit, it allowed them to push out new healthy white roots, and they're looking pretty good. So I don't know if this was a water temperature thing, or if this was high mineral content, or what really caused this, and I still want to look into that. But changing the water every day definitely did not help. I think that pretty much concludes this experiment, so I'm going to add these cuttings, now that they're rooted, to our original pot just to get a more fuller pot, and it'll look nice as it grows out. But it's hard to say what my real conclusion is. Definitely with my water, or whatever's up with my water, it does not pay to change out the water every single day. I've had so much more success with just leaving my water be, unless for whatever reason it gets really nasty. So I don't know, some people might have different opinions or even different results depending on their water. It's hard to say, but I definitely want to do some additional tests on my water and with the plants to see if I can get to the actual reason why this had such a profound effect on the roots. Well guys, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. The results were rather radical, but again, take it with a grain of salt, because there will be people in the comments that report differently. So I always encourage you guys to try these experiments at home and see what works for you and report back, because it'll help us all work together to find out the proper and best ways to propagate. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.